What I want to do is to bring in just Phil and Stacy just very briefly. One of the big things to remember as well is that the mainstream media are not the only game in town. And often, when we're trying to tell stories, you may come across an editor who just doesn't understand and doesn't think you have a story. That's happened a number of times, and so it doesn't get broadcast. So there are alternative routes, that we're thinking about. So Phil, Stacy, just very briefly, in terms of getting the message across, getting the values across, what advice would you be given on that front?
Right. Okay. You have to be clear as to what you want us to do for you. You have to come to us with a story. In our jobs, we're all charities, voluntary sector organisations, and we do live or die by jargon, unfortunately. I've had to learn a hell of a lot of it over the last years, but whenever I'm on air, whenever I'm talking to people, the jargon goes out the window. So if you're a PR person, I want you to be a real person. I was lucky enough to sit in on the Windmill City Farm talk just now, and it was a PR person giving a fantastic talk. And that PR person sent us a press release to say, Windmill City Farm, £50,000 needed to keep us going, blah-de-blah-de-blah. And I thought, okay, this will go into the pot with all the other press releases that we get. And we get 15, 20 a day. What I was looking for in that press release was the human story, absolutely, somebody who's benefited from the farm over the years, and not just a PR person. They were, the amount of times we get press releases and we'll follow them up saying, can you put somebody forward? Exactly what Richard said. Oh no, we don't do radio. But don't send me the bloody release then, sorry. Oh, but can you give us a shout out? Sorry, we don't do shout outs, If you knew about us and knew about our audiences and who we are, we can actually build a relationship here and we can work with the City Farm. A great example, last week, the Encounters Film Festival. We all know about it, it's been going for 15 years. We wanted a different angle, and this year they're doing the Young Film Festival. So they brought in a 17-year-old guy who'd been organising it. That was a great story. And from that, they had about half an hour of prime time airtime, which was superb for both of us.
Okay, thanks very much. Hopefully, we get some bursts. We won't be able to tackle every angle on existing issues at the moment, so can I encourage you to follow up with the panellists after, and also follow up with conversations among yourself, and I'm always free to chat as well, so I'm sure any of us are. And like actually Rob in our seminar said, media is hungry for stories. The number of times you sit there, you get a press release at 9 o'clock, you put it in the bin, because your program's not full at 5 o'clock, you go in the bin, you take it out, you say, let's stick this on there. Yeah, that happens. So remember, this sector has a wealth of stories, a wealth of people. You have human stories that expose massive truths about society and the way that the city and the country and the world works. So just be aware of the resource you do actually have. I will hold off on you, Stacy. We'll go to question number 2 and we'll pull you in there. Group number 2, please. Can we have one of your questions? And remember, can you just stand, say who you are, what the main theme of your group was, and then give us your question, please.
Thank you. My name's Karen Danvers. I'm from Right Track, the Children's Society, and I was in the workshop getting a difficult message across by refugee action. Our question is, are papers taking responsibility for the way they report on refugees and asylum seekers, as well as other groups of people such as travellers, black men, etc., and young people?
Well, let's go straight to the paper. Richard, are you taking responsibility for the way you report on some of these very sensitive issues?
Well, I think we do. I think we've got a reasonably good record. We've dealt with several stories of that. We had the story this week about an Armenian family who were threatened with deportation. I think we followed them quite closely, and we without being seen to be kind of on their side, I think we made it fairly clear that we felt and the community felt that it was a good result that they were brought back to Bristol. I know they've still got a fight on their hands, but I think we do. I think we're quite conscious of those things. Yeah, I think we try and balance it out, and I certainly think we give the people who fight for them the chance to have their say. As I say, I think we gave good space to that one this week, and going back in time, we have done on several occasions.
Angela, I know we're doing the same too here, but we couldn't go any further. You are from the BBC. You were behind Panorama, not personally, but it's part of your baby. But you're in local, which is a bit of a different beast for the national programmes. But you know, again, taking responsibility with dealing with sensitive issues in areas. Do you take responsibility?
I think we do. I think the casing example has been Panorama this week. To be totally clear, certain members of the BBC in Bristol had seen the programme before it went out. As it happened, nobody from Radio Bristol had seen the programme before it went out, so we were watching it as the community was watching it. And to look at it, we actually sent reporters into the community to watch it together. We had people at the BBC come in to watch it. We have an editorial standard that we have to be balanced. We have to try to, as much as possible, to get all sides of the argument. And yesterday, when we were looking back at the programme, the Panorama programme, we had lots of different people from different organisations, from different community groups, voicing their opinions and using us as a platform to do that. So to have Panorama on, to ask the questions that the members of the community had told us they wanted to say, get them to ask them themselves, and also to have a discussion where people can ring in and have that interaction so that they can say what they think. There is editorial standards for the BBC, and I do think that on the whole we meet them.
Yeah, and just as a shameless plug, I'm going to try and have the producer for Panorama on my show on Sunday 5 to 6 on Radio Bristol. Maybe we come to you, Stacy, because obviously there have been sensitive issues around, particularly around Somali community as well in Barton Hill for the last few years. I know I reported on them working with mobs some years ago. Do you think these things are being handled in with a responsible way, and people taking responsibility?
I think that obviously my angle isn't so much that I actually work doing the communications work in Barton Hill and surrounding areas, so producing the newsletter and all the sort of tools that we use. And obviously that area is very diverse. There's a lot of refugee communities living there. So the way that, and I'm just one person trying to sort of represent the news and what's happening in the really big area with a lot of diverse communities. So the way that we try and do that is to get people to contribute to our newsletter and to sort of represent the issues themselves rather than me trying to do it for them, because I'm never going to know everything that's happening. So I think that we do try as much as possible to represent what's happening in the area as truthfully as possible, whether that's positive things or negative things, but we get those communities to sort of, do it for us by writing.
How do you feel about the way stories are told about somebody sensitive by it could be community, it could be just what we might call mainstream, for want of a better description?
Sometimes I find I'm frustrated by the way that they're presented, because working on the ground I know all the good things that are happening, but a negative story is more, that gets picked up a lot more than the positive things are happening. So the amount of times I get a call from the BBC or from the papers when something's happening nationally or locally that's a bit more negative, and an example being when there was racial problems in Hillfield, somebody will ring me saying, were there any problems happening in Barton Hill that we can link this with, even though in fact the area is really good and lots of people are really happy there. But when I try and promote that side of things, it's a little bit harder to do that. So I think that it's not always quite as easy to get the positive news out there.